This is the DTV Digest, the podcast that brings you news and reviews of films which didn't make it to the cinema. And now, here's your host, Mike Parkin.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the DTV Digest. I'm your host, Mike Parkin, and joining me tonight are Richard Hawes.
Hello, everyone.
And Stephen Lockridge.
Hello.
And I'm glad to say there's no The Flood type film in tonight's lineup. We're going to be kicking off with the UK sci-fi movie Repeat. Then we've got a Swedish horror movie called Knocking. And then it's off to the States for two action films. We've got Every Last One of Them and Apex Predator. Our short shot this week is a film called CERA, C-E-R-A, and our DTV Throwback this week, it's a doozy. The cast, this is insane. It's called Collection, also known as Reach Me, and we'll definitely be talking about that later. But without further ado, let's crack on. Our first film then is Repeat. Ryan Moore is a cognitive psychologist who works for a local university. As he and his wife try to come to terms with their daughter's mysterious disappearance, Ryan makes a startling discovery with one of his homemade experiments. He's found a way to contact the dead. I thought this was a superlative film. I love the hard sci-fi element to it. You know, the fact that the guy can't even really explain what it is he's done is quite impressive, and you know, just the homespun nature of it. It reminded me a bit of what's the time travel film we saw a while back?
Oh, the
Shifter,
yeah.
You know, that sort of thing where she's sort of cobbled together her own time machine. You know, this guy's sort of, you know, he's built his own equipment, and you know, visually it's quite impressive. Then we have this this sort of detective element. There's this little bit of sort of mystery sort of thrown in. I just thought this really worked. So, Steve, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought it was absolutely cracking, to be fair. I love the homemade nature of the machine. As you know, it's not all slick and it looks kind of cobbled together in a way. I thought the performances were absolutely fantastic. I mean, the main guy is Tom England, and looking at it, he's not really done anything before. He was in something called Cosmos, and that's it. But I thought he was absolutely stunning, really. Even like his wife as well, Charlotte Ritchie. I've only seen her. I think she's in that. Is she in Ghost? Is it called on BBC? The comedy.
Oh,
I've only ever seen her.
Ghosts, I think.
Yeah,
with a plural. Yeah.
Yeah, I've only ever seen her on Taskmaster, so I'm not really seeing her do any acting as such, and I just thought they were both absolutely brilliant. But the way the story weaves and, you know, how it plays out, I just thought it was absolutely cracking. Really enjoyed this week.
Yeah. Rich, what do you make of Repeat?
Yeah, I thought it was excellent as well. The you've mentioned a couple of films there that sort of it relates to. I think that, you know, we looked at a film in which, you know, a film about a couple dealing with a tragedy in the previous episode, Law, you know, where that was like a monster movie, but it wasn't really about the monster. It was more about the situation that they were dealing with and stuff. And it's kind of the same here, although there's much more hards, as you say, the hard sci-fi, which is interesting because it's sci-fi, but it's also supernatural because it's crossing over into the...
Yeah,
he's saying, I don't believe in the afterlife, but I'm talking to people beyond the grave. And, you know, it's that sort of middle ground sort of, you know, he doesn't quite understand exactly what it is. And obviously that sort of unfolds, you know, unpacks as the story develops. White Noise was another one that I thought of, which had Michael Keaton in, which I didn't like, but that did pop into my head.
What's the one with Cillian Murphy and Robert De Niro? Do you remember that one?
Oh, God. I don't know.
You haven't seen that one? It's
no.
Oh yeah, it's called Red something. I think. Hang on.
I might not have seen it.
Basically,
No.
Robert De Niro plays a.
Oh, is it where he's
psychic.
like psychic? Yeah. I think
He's blind, sort of thing. And Cillian Murphy is a guy who's sort of out to sort of sort of deep
Red Lights.
Red Lights. That was
Red
it.
Lights.
Yeah.
I didn't see it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, there's a little bit of that in here as well.
Yeah, there was a British, also I think it's Italian, sort of British Italian sci-fi film called Time Loop, which was a similar kind of, really low budget, homemade sort of time travel-y sort of thing going on, but it was set in an Italian village and stuff. Yes, the low budget, working it really well. This is up there, I'd say. Equate it with stuff like Primer, I would say is quite fair, but it's much more accessible.
Yes.
There was a short film we watched. I know I keep comparing it to other things, but there was a short film we watched a while ago called Container.
Yeah, that was
which
really good,
was similarly about this guy who was, there was this personal tragedy in the background. He was really driven to use this technology to try and find answers, and they kept using kind of a flashback structure, and they do that here. It's kind of that Christopher Nolan thing where they sort of move between time periods, but without actually pointing it out. There's no stylistic changes or anything. 1 minute you're watching it, you just have to be on the ball and say, this must be taking place at a different time because we know that they are not in this, this character is not around at the moment or something. So you've kind of got to really pay attention as you're watching it. And it's a really easy watch. It's not particularly demanding. It's very, flows really well. We've got Nina Wadia is in the cast as well briefly. She pops in to give a little cameo performance. It's not what you expect. There's some great little twists. Like there's a couple of them as the story unfolds. It's a very good film.
Absolutely. I mean, I enjoyed. On one side, you've got his sort of obsession with what he's doing, much to the chagrin of his wife, who thinks he's meddling with stuff he shouldn't be. And then there's the big question of if he's able to contact the dead with this machine, is he going to try and contact his daughter, who's been missing for God knows how long? Can't remember. Is it a year, something like that?
I think it's about 6 months, I think.
That's right, yeah. So there's that sort of big question mark as well. But then there's this sort of like procedural sort of detective element when he goes back and he asks questions of her classmates and finds out information which hadn't come to light earlier. But then that plays out completely different to the way you're going to expect as well. Obviously we're not going to give away the twist, but it just nails it basically. It absolutely nails it, and it's horrific when you let it all sink in exactly what's happened. It's brilliantly horrific basically. It's so well thought out. I loved it. Not much more to say on it because we want people to go and watch it fresh. So scores on the doors, Steve.
An 8.
I'm going to join you on 8. And Rich?
Yeah, definitely an 8. It's only on digital, is that right?
I
don't think it's coming out on DVD, as far as I'm aware. I think it's it's exclusively a digital release.
Okay. In any case, we totally recommend this. It gets 3 8s from us. Please support it when it comes out. Let's repeat. Our next review is Knocking. After years in a psychiatric ward following a nervous breakdown, a middle-aged woman called Molly is finally ready to re-enter the world. However, as she starts to settle into a new apartment, Molly starts to hear loud banging noises through the walls and ceiling. This is a very slow burn, Rich. This one, it's an interesting film. I did enjoy it. It's Swedish, so it has that sort of Nordic noir sort of feel to it a bit. But this is sort of like it's set in the sort of the council houses, council flats kind of area, which is something you don't usually see in this sort of film, from Scandinavia. So that was certainly an interesting aspect to it. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it is kind of a it's sort of a horror movie, but it's not. It's a psychological, you could say thriller, probably more drama. It's kind of a portrait of a broken character for the most part, and the question of her sanity. And it's filmed in very, it's a lot of what do you call it? Dramatic pauses and silent observance. The camera is just sort of lingering on her facial expressions and stuff, because she's a very quiet character.
Yeah,
she's a very very unsettled. As you say, she has been released from an institution, and the question is there really a knocking, or is it in her head? It's a fairly standard sort of horror. If this was made in Japan, for example, we'd probably have the knocking turn out to be some sort of lank-haired girl who's in a container or something, and whatever. But this is not that kind of film. It's not ghosts and whatever. It's more about her sanity being questioned at every turn. Even people don't know that she's got a history, but she's asking questions and they're like, no, and it's just they're just sort of looking at her like, leave me alone. I don't know what you're talking about. And she's having these like various encounters, and then she just, it's getting more and more manic as she's more and more concerned about what she thinks is happening, and what's the police not believing her and all that sort of thing. It wasn't for me really. I think it's fine. It's nothing against the film itself. It's just it is something that you need to be in a particular mood for, I think, and it's not, whereas something like Repeat is quite a breezy watch, even though it's got some quite heavy subject matter, whether that's the life after death or the missing child and the anxiety and all that. There's a lot of heavy stuff in that, and there's heavy stuff in this, but this one sort of dwells on it a lot more, and it's you're sort of sinking. It's not, there's nothing to, there's what I mean? It's not an enjoyable film to watch.
You're right, and I think part of it as well is the fact that you're following around just this solitary character, who doesn't, she hasn't got anyone as a sounding board for most of the film.
No, she's alone.
So there's it's not particularly dialogue heavy. She's quite acerbic. I mean, you do get these scenes like you say, when she's sort of questioning people, and it must be really difficult for her. I'm pretty sure she's self-aware of how she comes across, and it must be difficult. When she sees stuff like the woman being accosted by a boyfriend, and then she calls the cops. It's like, well, that was probably a really difficult decision to make, thinking, how involved is she going to get right away with people? So,
and even when you get to the ending of the film, I think that you could take it in different ways. There's the final part, the final act, or the final moments of the film. You could take literally to mean one thing, or you could say, is this something that she thinks is happening, or whatever. So
I'm taking it literally. I think she was proved right in the end, and I like that bit actually. With the dispatcher and everything, that really worked for me. But at the same time, it proved that that was going to happen anyway. That discovery was going to be made anyway, regardless of what she was doing. She had no actual involvement in the denouement of the film. She was as much a victim / bystander as anyone else would have been. She wasn't able to raise the situation to anyone, because no one was listening. So it's weird. I mean, that incident would have happened, and that discovery would have been made regardless of anything she did, which kind of makes it a bit pointless. But there you go. But yeah, it's an interesting setting, as I say. It's a side of Sweden we don't usually get to see. So yeah, there's that. It's relatively interesting, but as you say, it's not going to, your focus may wander during it, and you'll be looking up every now and again from your phone.
It is short as well.
It is quite
78
brief.
minutes, including credits.
Indeed. I must admit, it wasn't the film I wanted to watch, if you see what I mean. I was expecting something a bit more from it, but I did like the way things played out at the end. So yeah, Rich, scores on the doors.
I'll give this one a 6.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's a very well made film, very well acted. It's just that the script really didn't sort of gel for us. Didn't give us enough to really go on. So there you are, 2 6s for Knockiing. Check it out. Our next review is Every Last One of Them. Jake Hunter is a man on a mission to discover what happened to his daughter and who is responsible for her disappearance, and woe betide anyone who has answers. This is an interesting one, Rich. I made a comment when I was watching it. I tweeted something out saying, the most striking thing about this so far is the fact that it's using the same sort of Olive Grove location that
Paydirt,
yeah, the Luke Goss film used for its climax. This used it sort of earlier on in the film, and then I realised afterwards it's the same director. It's the same guy. Cesma, I think his name is
Christian Cesma.
Yeah, Christian Cesma. So, and I must admit, this is a much better film than Paydirt. This works a lot better for me, I have to say. It's interesting the way it develops. It starts off with him going into a bar and this stupid little kid. I couldn't wait for that stupid little kid to get his ass slapped. And so watching him getting his face smashed into the bar was quite satisfactory for me. But then things develop in ways we don't expect. What do you make of this?
I liked it. Yeah, it's it's a proper action movie, and I can't remember what's the name of the guy who's the lead in this one. Paul Slone.
Yes, Paul Slone.
Yeah. So I'm not really familiar with him, but I thought he was great. I thought he was very engaging as a sort of a grizzled, tough guy who's been pushed too far kind of thing. And it's funny because it's kind of a combination of different things, and there's a couple of key points which I'll let you sort of dig into before I do. But the way it starts out, it starts out with a barroom brawl, which is quite cool. It's like you've sort of action movies, the grand staple. I mean, it was making me think of like Debt Collector 2 or Debt Collectors or Payback, whatever you want to call it, because that starts out in basically almost exactly the same way. It starts out with a bar and brawl scene, but this one was a bit like in Fire Down Below, the sort of setup of the town, and the guy who's in charge and his son who's the sort of his wayward son who's sort of causing trouble for him and whatever. And it reminded me of the relationship that Chris Christopherson's character has with his son, who he's left in charge in the town, although his son's actually not too bad in that movie. In this one, he's a really nasty piece of work. But
this is a staple of these sort of action films as well, isn't it? As you say, the wayward son, the one who gets too big for his boots, who thinks that just because his daddy's the sort of guy in charge, that he gets to throw his weight around as well, sort of thing. There's a really good film with Vinnie Jones that I watched earlier this year. It was Ron Perlman was in that one as well. And that had the same sort of thing, this fucking kid sort of acting too hard and getting in sort of Vinnie Jones's face and causing havoc. Yeah, I can't remember what that was called, but it was very good.
So so you mentioned the setting or some of the settings are similar to Paydirt. I like Paydirt. I thought it was good.
It was all right. It had
this one.
It had issues with me personally, because the stupid credit, the card, cards and things like that wound me up. But there you go.
But this one's it's very solid. There's some really good, there's a couple of nice. I mean, it's not a big budget movie, but there's a couple of nice set pieces. He also directed he's directed quite a few things, but in terms of recent stuff, he did Take Back as well, which also had a similar look. They all sort of share a sort of a similar. They're probably filmed in similar locations, and they all seem to get really good casts. He's doing Section 8 next with, I think, with Dolph Lundgren and Scott Adkins and
nice.
A few other people. So I've got quite high hopes for that. Yeah, I thought the action was shot well. Locations look good. Taryn Manning is in there as well. From I think she was. I've seen her in quite a few. I used to see she. She was a teenager in a lot of stuff, or playing teenagers. This is probably the first thing I've seen her where she's. She's playing an adult, mother character, who's just as vicious as her husband. They're sort of like the crime.
I know they're brother
couple.
And sister.
Oh, well, they're brother and sister.
Yeah,
sorry,
brother and sister. Yeah.
Oh, I got that completely wrong. So hang on a minute. So where's his wife then?
Not on the scene.
Oh, okay. So that's why I just presume I obviously missed some dialogue there between them two. But the key one to note, and I'll let you take this over, is Richard Dreyfuss.
Well, we've also got Michael Madsen in the mix for like two scenes, and he sounds like he's had the same tracheotomy that Val Kilmer's had almost. His voice is incredibly gravelly in this.
Oh, he's always gravelly though.
Yeah, but even worse than usual. But anyway, but you're
right. His scenes actually, it's interesting because that's like what I was saying a minute ago with Repeat, how the flashbacks are not really signposted. You just kind of have to be on the ball. They do the same thing with this. Yeah, it's actually a bit harder to follow because some of the scenes you're actually he could be talking to him now, but then oh no, he was actually talking to him months ago or something
with his daughter and that.
Yeah.
But then, as you say, Richard Dreyfuss turns up, and it is interesting to see Richard Dreyfuss turning up in these sort of films. We've had him in was it the Last Job? We had him in Daughter of the Wolf, and before that he was in what was it called now? The one with Mads Mikkelsen.
Oh, Polar.
That was it. So he's always decided that he's going to take these sort of smaller roles and. Go for it. And he's muscling in on Bruce Willis territory, basically.
And Kelsey Grammer territory. I think Kelsey Grammer could have easily played this as well.
Oh, yeah. But we do get this sort of scene with him early on where Paul Slone turns up and sort of says hi and then disappears again. But then he turns up in the middle of this, this shitstorm in this town. And he basically turns into Colonel Troutman from Rambo. Mm-hmm. He turns up as this sort of shady CIA guy going, you guys don't know who you're messing with. You need to back off. And it's brilliant. It just made my day having them come in and do that. And then, it almost turns into John Wick as well. Because when he finds out why his operative is going on this rampage in this town. Mm-hmm. And it's like, you did what? Which was absolutely brilliant as well. And that leads to that final scene. This final scene was absolutely superb. Out of nowhere. I absolutely loved that. There's a real sort of like Godfather moment. But yeah, absolutely superb. So
I think it all unfolds quite well, with sort of revealing the
exactly.
The plot
so
and stuff.
We find out from the shithead son early on that a little bit of what happened, and then the henchman gives us more information, and then finally we get the full reveal at the end, the full circumstances, which things went down basically. Action wise, this is very good. This is a step up as well. There's that whole sequence surrounding is it the sheriff's building, with the fountain and everything.
I think so.
That was a really good action scene.
It was. I thought it was really great, but did it not seem that he was completely surrounded, and yet he was always taking fire from directly in front of him?
Just one side. Yeah.
I was like, surely he would be taking shots in the side and at the back, or stuff, but he was always just looking ahead or whatever. So that bugs me a little bit. But it was really good. It was really good. It was a good location. Good. Large amount of stunt crew and everything to do, some performers, and whatnot, and the firepower was all well handled. You know, I think it's CGI muzzle flashes and everything, but it wasn't too
trace of fire and stuff going on. It was absolutely superb. Yeah.
Oh, there's that bit where you see the lines of fire sort of cutting across.
Because from the sort of overhead shot and everything, it worked really well. I thought it was very, very well done. Any more comments before we wrap up on this one?
Just to mention, so we've said about the First Blood sort of element, but there was another film that sort of sits between the two of these. I just want to mention it was called Straight Shooter, and it was a German film with a similar kind of concept in which a soldier is on a sort of a personal mission to take out a whole bunch of people, and in that case it's Dennis Hopper who's the Colonel Troutman character, and he's kind of a stopgap between the two, because obviously Colonel Troutman, he's a very respectable military colonel, and Richard Dreyfuss's character here, he's sort of in the grey zone, isn't he? He's working, he's kind of working both sides, and I think if you were going to do like a triple bill, it would be interesting to sort of if you can find it, to fit Straight Shooter in there. I used to have a video CD of it. It's quite hard to get. You can get it. I don't think it was ever released over here. Might turn up on Prime one day. Quite an interesting little film. Anyway, because Dennis Hopper starring in a German film, it was a bit strange at the time. But apart from that, no. I think we were both surprised to see on the end credits Chi Kyung Chung.
Chi Kyung Chung,
name
director of,
I'm guessing he wrote an early.
And...
I wonder if he wrote an early draft and it was like retooled and stuff.
Possibly, but he's down as a co-producer as well. So he's sort of more involved than possibly. But Chi Kyung Chun. He directed 3 really solid sort of low budget action movies here in the UK. So Redcon 1, Bodyguard, A New Beginning, and 12 was the other one. That one had numerous names, but great to see his name pop up in here as well. So how are you going to score it, Rich?
I am going to give this one a 7. I like Paul Slone. I mean, I think he's only really done sort of supporting roles.
Yeah, he's
quite a few things up until now,
and things like that. Yeah,
but I'm looking forward to. I think he's definitely got that. I mean, Message Man was kind of another one that came to mind as we were watching it. So I think I'd be interested. I think this is an action movie through and through. It's really well worth seeing, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he does next.
Absolutely, and certainly Christian Cesma seems to be firing on all cylinders, and he's a name to be looking out for. So 2 7s. I didn't say 7, but I'm giving it a 7. 2 7s for every last one of them. Go check it out. Our next review is Apex Predator. In the near future, convicted criminals can volunteer to be prey for rich hunters. If they survive, they will be richly rewarded, but if they don't, they die. Duh. Top hunter Rainsford is getting bored though, so Apex, who run the hunting expeditions, convince a convict called Malone to take part, as Malone has a tendency to continually cheat death. Okay, this could have been an excellent version of the Most Dangerous Game. It could have been. But then they went and hired Bruce Willis. And, fair play, Bruce is more involved than he usually is. But at any point...
He's sitting in the woods in his slippers.
At any point, did you think, here is a guy who needs to use his wits and experience to evade these well-tooled up hunters?
Well, none of them are using any stealth whatsoever.
Oh, fuck me. He looked like he was walking around the edges of his garden. He was having a little
that was out of Death. That's when he was walking around his garden.
He was doing
this one's slightly better than that.
Because of what's going on around him. but he, there's even a bit in the film where he's strolling along and the music changes to like God.
Right. It's dog shit. Absolute dog shit. I mean, right, not just the Bruce Willis bit, all of it is fucking terrible. But there's scenes in this film where it's not Bruce Willis.
Oh yeah.
There's one shot from the back of his head. That's not his head. And then near the end, where he's supposedly going on a bit of a rampage, you don't even see him. All you see is from the neck down, and that lasts for like a 10-minute segment.
He's doing a Seagal, isn't he?
Yeah, that's a Seagal trick. That one. And then even the end of it, the green screen is so bad. He's not even in the same room. That's some classic terrible green screen at the end.
And he's not. He's not even in the same room as the guy he's supposedly speaking to. It's absolute shite. A lot of it. It's nearly as bad as what was the one where? Oh, was it Hunter? Not Hunter Killer.
No, that was good. I enjoyed that.
No, the one where he's like his daughter's been kidnapped and they go in to get her out of that.
Oh, Hard Kill.
Mill.
That was dog shit. That was all shot in like a warehouse, wasn't it? Oh my God.
Yeah.
So this is like a really naff version of Surviving the Game.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is that Bruce Willis has made a film with virtually that title called Survive the Game, which I find quite amusing. But the Surviving the Game was, hopefully we'll cover it in the future because it was DTV.
It was awesome. Yeah, I watched it as part of June's exploitation this year.
And it's got, and the funny thing is, this film's got Lachlan Monroe, who I've always thought had a bit of a Gary Busey thing about him, and Surviving the Game had Gary Busey. I'm just going to backtrack because there's quite a few things more to sort of say about it, but I just want to go back to the beginning when they introduce Bruce Willis's character. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm sure they gave a really long speech where they were going, "Oh, you won't be able to get out of him. He hasn't spoken to anyone in 7 years or something." And then the very next scene, he's as chatty as anything. There's no sort of hesitation in starting to talk to this hologram woman that appears before him. He's like, "Yeah, we'll do it." And then someone tells him that he's got grandkids or whatever, and that gives him motivation. And he's like, "Oh well, right then, I'll do it." So with about as much conviction as he can muster.
He actually showed about as much emotion as Seagal in that scene. You've got grandkids. Oh, okay, got grandkids.
I've got. That gives me a reason to live.
What was amusing? I suppose it was some sort of in joke. Is they do the how badass is he scene? Because obviously they put his face up where they go, I think he got the wrong guy because that looks like someone's granddad something. And then she gives this huge spiel about all the stuff he's done, and it is eerily close to John McClane. It's like, obviously that's what they were basically trying to allude to, is that this guy is basically John McClane. He sort of like jumped out of a building, sort of drove a car through a helicopter and all this sort of stuff, all this stuff that he's done over his career, which is basically, it's all the stuff from the Die Hard movies.
That's interesting because I didn't pick up on that. I wasn't paying that much attention.
All right, it's worth going back and have a look at that.
I was too distracted by the fact that they were calling him the Mutilator and going on about like he's like this terrible awful evil
it turned
human
out he
being.
killed one person, and that was it. He was a cop for ages, and then he sort of went out of his way and, I don't know, killed somebody.
Which it doesn't add up, does it? It doesn't make any sense.
There you go.
No. None of it does.
So here is a film without a protagonist. So, because kind of Bruce Willis isn't in it enough for you to say that he's the main character or the hero, because he's not really painted as much of a hero.
No. His character does something quite interesting though. In that he puts the seed of the idea in their heads that they could kill each other. The hunters. He sort of says, "Is it against the rules for the hunters to kill other hunters?" And all of a sudden, you see Neil McDonough's face go, "Ooh," It's like,
yeah, but
so I think that was a deliberate thing. Him sort of turning them against each other, and to eat up the screen time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's all about the conflict between them, isn't it?
That's the only thing that he does.
Yeah.
He don't do anything else. He just says that one line.
How about this
next
bit?
thing, they all like each other to bits and shit, and it's just like, oh.
How about this bit? When he's having his little stroll around his garden, he starts eating the berries. And the hologram turns up. The hologram turns up and goes, "Oh, I wouldn't do that if I were you. They're packed full of like hallucinogens. You've got to go on a sort of serious trip if you keep eating them." So he keeps eating them, and then nothing happens because either the budget wasn't there, or Bruce just turned around and goes, "No, I'm not doing that." But they had to leave the scene in. It's just like it just goes nowhere. Whatever happened to the trip? Bizarre.
Yeah.
So we've got Neil McDonough as he gets the top billing,
and he is the best thing in it. He is.
Yeah, he's the villain. He is kind of. I know it's funny we keep sort of mentioning Kelsey Grammer. Now Kelsey Grammer could be in the Bruce Willis role, but I think Kelsey Grammer would really fit the Neil McDonough role because they actually look a bit similar and they kind of play the same kind of character. But again, it's like, well, Bruce, who are we rooting? Who are we supposed to be on the side of? It's like all the characters are unlikable.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of nasty pieces of work, and Bruce Willis's character, who we're not 100% sure on, and because he's not there very much, and we're not really invested in him in any sense. So there's no anchor, and a film without a main protagonist to follow is really it doesn't really work. Generally, I mean, Universal Soldier Regeneration accepted. That is one of the problems with that film, but overall the film is just great anyway. But this one is, and they try to jazz, because it's all low budget, and it's all it's the set on an island hunting, hunt the human kind of thing, and they try to jazz it up with sci-fi, but they haven't got any money, so they've got this like teleportation thing, which is like 3 strip lights stuck into the ground, and some hologram stuff, and some like heavy red lighting in some scenes, whatever. And it's just
the sci-fi trappings. I thought they worked well enough for this sort of thing. That didn't bother me at all. It's just everything else.
But the silly, I mean, she's like the hologram girl or whatever turns up, and she's like, "I'm the game master" or something. Blah, 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 blah. So I thought that was horrible. I didn't like it. So the film it reminded me a bit of like, imagine Surviving the Game remade by the team who did Money Plane. Where they've got no money whatsoever, nothing's really convincing, and it's. Because do you remember about that? That was spending a lot of time with these unlikable gamblers and taking them to different places. We were spent doing that and following them around, and the concept just didn't really work. And the same here, it's just. I mean,
it's money.
Here's another thing. It's all shot during the day. Where's the nighttime hunting kind of scenes? Where's the drama? Where's the tenseness? Yeah. Where's the suspense?
Go back to the lodge and just chill out and have a drink.
That was what was funny as well. The fact that they spent half the time back at the lodge. It's like, yeah.
But also as well, when near the end, Bruce Willis walks out of the woods. It's daylight. Shoots a guy who's got a fucking flamethrower. The guy in the flamethrower's in the dark at night. Bruce Willis is in the day. It's just.
That's clumsy, isn't it? It's clumsy shit.
Yeah.
Oh, did you know? We watched Savage, didn't we, last week?
Yes.
And there's that bit where the guys are like, "Oh, we need reinforcements," and they kind of do the same in this movie, don't they? They're like, "Right, let's call it." So you get this cutaway of all these scenes of people doing other things, getting suddenly text messages or whatever, going, "Oh, I've got to go off to an island and kill this guy," because they need some more body count.
Yeah.
Very, very silly.
It's rubbish, basically.
I mean,
I haven't seen Cosmic Sin or any, some of the others sort of. I mean, I saw, or we saw. Oh, what was it? Breach.
Yeah.
See, I didn't. Which I didn't mind. I thought Breach was a lot better than this.
Yeah.
Yeah, his character. Yeah, he actually had a proper character in that one.
Well, he's actually in it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
and there were sets and stuff.
Yeah,
it was production design.
Yeah, this was filmed in his backyard, wasn't it?
That had the same guy actually as in this one, Corey Large. He was in Breach. He's also in this as one of the hunter characters. Because the same director, I think, actually, isn't it? Edward Drake. Did he do Breach?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and anyway, Cosmic Sin, he did.
He directed that as well. Oh, I was certainly interested in seeing that now. Then, yeah.
It's funny because he also wrote. Do you remember the horror film Broil we did?
Yeah, that was actually good.
So I
like that.
He was the writer and director of that as well, which is completely different to these films. Very different proposition. Very different kind of movie.
It was overly ambitious, and the longer it went on, the less sense it made. But it did have some really good moments in it. So, and
it had aesthetics, it's like
exactly,
this just doesn't. It's
no.
Yeah, it was called Apex originally, and they've tacked on Predator for the UK.
That's a typical UK move, isn't it? Yeah. You can tell this sort of who the marketing think are buying these films. It's bread and circuses sort of thing, and dumb it down to the lowest denominator.
They've got another Bruce Willis one coming, American Siege.
Right.
Yeah.
Funny because he was in Siege or The Siege.
He was.
The Siege.
So
with that unforgettable bus explosion.
Yeah, but that one didn't seem to need American shoved on it. So
there's another one, Gasoline Alley. That's like they've really,
The thing is,
it's the Edward Drake and Bruce Willis team. They're pulling out some classics.
I remember seeing a while ago, a long time ago, there's a Burt Reynolds film where he goes to England. He's an action star, an aging action star, goes to England to take part in a production of King Lear.
Bunch of amateurs.
Yeah,
that's it, bunch of amateurs. And the film starts with like excerpts from his latest quotes, blockbuster, and people walking out of the cinema at the end and sort of going, "Oh my God, he looks so old. Why is he getting to kiss that girl who's like 20? He's like 60 and all this sort of stuff." And it's like, yeah, this is where Bruce is now. He's way past the point where he's a believable action star. And this film proves it. It is living proof. Because he doesn't do any action.
The thing is, Bruce Willis is not in bad shape. He could do it. I mean, flipping Liam Neeson is cranking him out. He's just had a third one come out on Amazon, The Marksman. And, he could, I mean, these are basically theatrical releases that Amazon's bought to show on the thing, but they're high quality productions. And there's no reason, the same as Steven Seagal, if he made himself in shape. But there's no reason these guys couldn't do what Liam Neeson's doing because he's the same age.
Yeah. I mean, Josh Brolin, in June recently, he looks amazing still. So, yeah. But he just, I don't know, apathy. Has he discovered the Seagull formula of doing the least amount possible to get the same payday?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He definitely has. He's just, he's lost his enthusiasm. He's looking for the easy money. He doesn't care about the product. Unfortunately, he's just, he's part of that machine of exploiting himself and his own, and the goodwill of his audience. Unfortunately, and it's. I mean, how many of these has he made now? I mean, it's been several years.
Oh yeah,
of churning out.
It used to be sort of reasonably sporadic, didn't it? There's a few he did with who's the rapper I'm thinking of? Chris Curtis.
Oh, 50 Cent.
Yeah, 50 Cent. Yeah, he did a couple with him. A few years ago, he did Precious Cargo, which is a brilliant film, despite him. It's one we should cover at some point in the throwbacks. Proper decent action movie with Bruce Willis.
But have you seen the trailer for Deadlock? which basically looks like a Die Hard ripoff with Bruce Willis as the villain, or Die Hard crossed with maybe the Rock, because his villain is kind of like a villain, but he's got like a reason kind of.
Who's the hero in that one? Who's
Patrick Muldoon is.
Oh, right.
No, not Pat. Is it Patrick Muldoon? Yeah,
from
Starship Troopers. Yeah. Which is funny because he's only about 13 years younger than Willis. So it's not like they've gone that, we need a young hero, because he's not young. He's not a young hero at all.
Starship Troopers kind of was 21 years ago, 22 years ago now. So,
but that film is kind of like, it does look very Die Hard if you watch the if you watch the trailer. But yeah, one of many more Bruce Willis movies that are on the cards.
Right. Well, let's get back to this one. So, scores on the doors, Steve.
3. Oh yeah,
it's
dreadful. Yeah.
Rich.
See, I'm thinking 3 is a bit harsh, but then I'm trying to think, is it really? It's like, I'll give it a 4.
I'm going to give it a 5.
Justify yourself.
Yeah, two reasons.
Yeah.
One is Neil McDonough. I thought he was great in this, for one thing. And 2 is the fact that I actually watched all of it. Without fast forwarding through any bits. It did, it had entertainment value for the wrong reasons, admittedly. But yeah, it's a messy, horrible film.
Don't tell me that you were like literally just glued to the screen though. You must have been like checking your phone and stuff.
Yeah, of course. But my finger kept off the fast forward button. But
you, why do you ever fast forward a film?
Sometimes
if you're fast forwarding a film, that's a really bad sign.
Exactly. Sometimes you're just like, you've told us this information already. Why? Just skip it. I mean, I'm not talking like huge chunks. I'm talking like sort of 30 seconds or a minute. It's just trying my patience. But there you go. But anyway, so yeah, I'll give it a begrudging 5 out of 10. So
quite a spread there.
It's quite a spread. A 3, a 4, and a 5. Whichever way you take it, this isn't good. So there you go.
I'm sure it will do well in the supermarkets, though.
I'm sure it'll do well in the supermarkets because it got Bruce Willis in it, and people our age still have a hankering for Bruce. So there you go. Anyway, that's enough of that. Our short shot this week is CERA. In the near future, a family gets caught up in a robot uprising. This is very short and sweet, Rich. This is very much like it's a proof of concept for something much bigger.
Yes.
But it works really well. It just like gets straight to the punch. You don't need a lot of exposition to sort of catch up with what's going on. Thoroughly enjoyed this. Steve, what do you make of it?
Yeah, I enjoyed this actually. I thought it was really well shot. The aesthetic was great. Really nice to see Jason Isaacs in there as well, which I wasn't expecting. Yeah, it's just like you say, short, sweet, does exactly what it needs to. Just laying the foundations for it, but it's quite intriguing because you don't at the beginning you're wondering what's going on, and it does flesh it out and explains it to you, which some things don't. But yeah, it was really good. Really enjoyed this. To be fair,
it was really well shot. Yeah, really well lit and everything. Yeah. Rich, a bit more detail from you.
No, yes. So I was saying before about Apex Predator. It's all like shot in the daylight or whatever, and this is atmospheric. It's dark. It's all pretty much all taking place at night time. It's all lit. The lighting is torches and little lights here and there or whatever, rather than because basically the power's been knocked out. Yeah, and it isn't until sort of later. I mean, it's only just over 7 minutes long. It isn't like until the end where the whole sort of robot uprising sort of reasoning for what is actually happening is revealed, and it's kind of a thriller setup of this domestic situation, and the somebody in the house revealed to be like a nanny kind of character has stabbed the mother of the child. And so the husband's sort of going out and trying to find help, and telling the daughter to stay safe and everything, and then things gradually revealed, and we find out who CERA is. And I thought the performances were all really good. Jason Isaacs lends a lot of weight, his being there, but it's just a high quality production the whole way through. I mean, very similar to what we saw with Skywatch. They take up this kind of proof of concept film, get somebody of real weight to appear in it, and Jason Isaacs is actually in this a lot more than Jude Law was in Skywatch. He's got several scenes, and it's barely scraping the surface, but it is quite satisfying as like a little teaser film. I think it is worth seeing, even though it is a proof of concept, there's enough there to give you a rewarding viewing experience. And the music as well is very distinctive.
Just want to give a shout out to the actress playing CERA. It's Meredith Adelaide. I thought she was really good in this. Very, very sort of Westworldy. She gave a really good performance. It left it in absolutely no doubt that she was an android. Her expressions and everything. Sort of glacial sort of face. I just thought she really made it for me. It's just it really sold the idea of this, humanoid android kind of concept. It absolutely worked. So, I mean, the thing is, watching it and knowing how the name CERA was spelt and the way it was being pronounced as Sarah in the film, it was obvious to me that she was a robot. Even without seeing her, I just guessed, that that's what we were watching. But the way the film ends, it's like, oh my God, she's a robot. The moment, I was like, yeah. but there you go. Other than that, I thought this worked really, really well. Any more comments, guys?
No, say tense, atmospheric, very well worth seeing. The actress you're talking about, Meredith Adelaide, she's got a very long filmography of other roles in mainly short films, so I'll definitely be having a look at a bit more of her work.
Cool. We don't score the shorts, but we certainly recommend them, and you will find a link to this in the footnotes below. That is CERA. Our DTV throwback this week is Reach Me, also known as Collection. When a self-help book called Reach Me goes viral thanks to exposure by a rapper, the book and the search for its reclusive author ends up touching the lives of a number of individuals, entwining their fates. Now, we were struggling to think of a film to cover this week in our DTV throwback section. And then, Rich, you threw this at us. And when I read the synopsis, I just inwardly groaned. I thought, oh God, this sounds dreadful. And it was only the cast list that sort of got me to look at this up. So, I mean, the cast list is insane for this film. It absolutely is. It is ridiculous. And,
I kind of felt the same, which is why I've not watched it until now, because I was just like, oh, I don't really fancy this film.
Doesn't, but having, even from its opening shot, which is a nice sort of swooping skyline at night shot, I thought, oh, that's a bit different, and the actual direction and everything else, the acting in this is really good. Whether or not I got any misgivings about the script, which I don't really, other than that, it's the self-help bit doesn't really sort of come into it too much. it's more about these sort of weird characters and how their lives sort of intertwine as a result of coming in contact with it, which was yeah, I actually I really enjoyed this, from start to finish, and it did help having all these superb actors, filling in just about every role. It was insane watching this at times, and bizarrely, Sylvester Stallone gives one of his best performances in this. His best non-action performances. He's great, although I want to talk a bit later about his final scene. But I thought his acting, the way he's barking these, orders and tirades at his staff, I thought was absolutely superb. He was really, really good. And Thomas Jane just looked cool as shit in this. I don't think he's looked any cooler than he does in this film.
He is pretty cool.
He is really, really cool. I mean,
he's just being a sheriff, isn't he? Really?
Yeah, exactly. He is. It's exactly what he is. But yeah, thoroughly. This was a real surprise. So, Steve, what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I didn't like it as much as you. I'll be honest.
I'm not surprised.
No, I mean, don't get me wrong. The cast is great, but it's just the actual story it's trying to tell. It's just a bit wishy-washy for me. It didn't grab me that much. I thought the performances were great. Like you say, Stallone, I thought was excellent. It's one of the best things I've seen him do for a long while. But it was just it's just a little bit trite and a bit boring for me. Really, it just didn't connect with me at all in that kind of sense. But I can see where it's going. It kind of reminded me of when was it, about 94, was it? Oh no, 2014. So I'm way out of there. But it kind of reminded me when 2 Days in the Valley came out and things like that, and we've all got to be connecting and we're all
funny enough,
together. Yeah,
it's the same director, isn't it?
Is it?
Yeah, it's the same director as 2 Days in the Valley.
I didn't realise that.
Yeah, but you're right. It's that sort of Shaggy Dog story kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, it's just not for me really.
I must admit, I was a bit worried this was going to turn into like one of those films like The Holiday or Valentine's. There was this really horrible sort of saccharine sort of ensemble cast kind of films that came out a few years ago.
I like The Holiday.
Yeah.
not The Holiday. There was one called Valentine's or something else. There's
like New Year's Day.
Oh
yeah, all that sort of that sort of stuff. And I was a bit worried it's going to be a bit like that, but I don't think it was. But yeah, so Rich, let's have your initial thoughts on this.
Yeah, it's funny that Steve should bring up 2 Days in the Valley, completely not realizing that it was the same writer director. That was the film. This is John Hertzfeld. That was the film that kind of put him on the map. That was kind of his big. He'd done loads of other stuff before, but that was kind of his big movie at the time. And then that led to him doing a film called 15 Minutes with Robert De Niro, and Ed Burns, which I think was probably.
And Kelsey Grammer, I think, wasn't Kelsey Grammer?
Yes, I think Kelsey Grammer was also. But that was kind of the peak, and he didn't direct a huge amount after that. He did a film called Bobby Z with Paul Walker, which missed out on cinema, and a couple of other things. But he hadn't really directed much. So he's an old friend of Stallone's, and I guess he'd got this project going, and so he got Stallone involved, and a whole bunch of other people who he either knew or worked with before or something. So managed to pull together this amazing ensemble cast. I mean, we haven't really gone through it yet, but this is a Millennium Entertainment, as it's now called, but Millennium Films kind of production. So we've got Stallone and his Expendables pal Terry Crews is in there. We've also got Ryan Quanten, Danny Aiello, Tom Berenger, Danny Trejo, Thomas Jane you've mentioned, Kelsey Grammer, also from Expendables 3, and Kira Sedgwick. The list goes on and on. Tom Sizemore, yeah, of course. And I don't know, did I mention Carrie Elways?
No.
So Carrie Elways,
unrecognizable in this.
Well, he doesn't, because Kerry Elway's almost always plays Americans.
Yeah.
He rarely plays Englishmen, although he is English himself. There's a few films he's turned up doing various English accents. One of which I think was obviously Princess Bride, probably his most famous film. But also he did I don't know if you ever saw it. There was a film called American Crime.
Yeah.
With which was another kind of ensemble kind of thing where he was like a Yorkshireman or something in that. And in this one he's a Cockney. And but yeah, so there's some weird tonal shifts in this film, and that kind of is exemplified by the Kerry Elway's scene. The main Kerry Elway's scene, which flips on a dime, like from being sort of lightweight comedy to like really sort
really
of
horribly
gross,
rapey.
Horribly rapey kind of scene. So it's a bit. I'm not quite sure on that side of things, but in terms of the cast and the characters and the plot, there are certain storylines I prefer more than others. Obviously, it's one of those films where they all coalesce. They all meet at the end, or they intersect. I mean, at one point, two of the storylines do actually literally smash into each other. I liked say Thomas Jane's sort of cartoony kind of character. Always he keeps killing people going to see his priest, and there is stuff that is just kind of there and it doesn't really go anywhere. Tom Berenger's quite good, and see, one of the things that I'm not sure about is it's a film about this self-help book which has changed loads of people's lives or whatever, and they keep quoting in it, and this is all stuff that John Hertzfeldt will have put into the script himself. So it's kind of one of those almost like M. Night Shyamalan-y kind of things of, is this a film about him sort of presenting his own ideas of self-help and what is great, and saying, and him saying this is because the film is presenting this as the answers, this is serious, the answers to sorting your life out.
Wasn't that The Simpsons? Wasn't that The Simpsons version?
What the answer? Yeah. I think it probably was. Yeah. And it's kind of that where because it's so, it's not shied away from. It's not like they say, oh, there's this book. They actually start, quoting from it and, talking about it. And it's like, well, so you have to be able to buy in to that as being like a really great concept and stuff. So, and I wasn't really buying that. So I think that probably took the edge off slightly. But in terms of, Kevin Connolly's also in there. He's probably best known from Entourage, playing a very similar character here. He also directed Gotti with
John
Travolta and stuff. But I think the Kira Sedgwick storyline's really good.
Yes.
Sylvester Stallone kind of pops in and pops out again. But he leaves an impression. And we've also got Frank Stallone in a cameo, which is nice.
I want to talk about Stallone's character because he's a catalyst for a lot of what happens. When this rapper called Extreme or something, or
Eruption,
that's it. He starts saying that this book was what sort of saved him from prison and things like this, and that sort it gets caught up in the zeitgeist. And Stallone's character is this sort of like mover and shaker guy, the guy behind the guy kind of thing, and he sets one of his minions off to sort of try and expose this guy to sort of see if he's a fraud or not, because he
runs this like news website, doesn't he?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, and, like Collider or somewhere.
Yeah, and he's seen as this sort of very much a sort of devil kind of character for a lot of it. He's sort of, you've got to just drive through everything, don't spare the horses, and if you knock somebody out of the way, then who cares? Get to where you need to be. And then at the end, he actually helps out sort of Tom Berenger's character. He gives him a bit of advice on how to deal with the crowd because he's agoraphobic. I thought that was weird. I thought, well, you've just fired the guy for not doing what you wanted, and now you're not doing what you wanted either.
Yeah, but the firing him, it's like
exactly. It's like
you can go right, but
giving him a kick up the bum sort of thing, isn't he? Give him the kick that he needs to get him started. Yeah, but
they kind of do this whole he's the bad guy, but actually if you think about it, he's not. Look at what he's actually done there, kind of thing. They try to be quite clever about it.
Yeah, so but it's probably the one grain of sand that's sort of on the side of good for him. Everything else.
Interesting side note: the cover of the book that appears in the movie, apparently Stallone painted that cover. Interesting. That's specifically mentioned in the credits. Because he and I probably mentioned it earlier, but he and Hertzfeld go way back. They were like, I think they were like in college together. They made a short film, and they've known each other for donkey's years. And then Stallone brought him in to do the third Escape Plan movie. Yeah. After the second one, after he was very disappointed with the second one, he said, "I want somebody I can trust at the head of the next one." So I guess they had a good because they hadn't really worked together much before. I guess he'd enjoyed working on this, and there's actually because Stallone's got that Rocky versus Drago re-edit of Rocky 4 coming out, and there's a making of YouTube, like an hour and a half YouTube documentary shot on an iPhone about the making of it, and John Hertzfeld directed that. He's the one carrying the phone and talking to Stallone there, so they're clearly very tight. And so I think the thing about this film is that I don't know if it's modern filmmaking styles or whatever, but it's got kind of a particular. If you compare this to Shade, for example, and Stallone in Shade, how it looks very different. I mean, I'm not going to say it looks like it's made for TV, but it's the quality. It doesn't feel very cinematic in the same. Shade had a real. It was low budget, but it had a real style to it and stuff. And I don't know if that's just the way filmmaking has changed or what. I don't know. It just felt like a very different kind of thing. To say a bit more like maybe like a TV series-y kind of feel to it than a movie.
Now we've rattled off a lot of names of people who are in this. There's one name we didn't mention, but we've talked about already on this particular episode, and that is, of course, Kelsey Grammer. He only gets one scene, but it's a brilliant scene. He because we've had Tom Sizemore as this sort of heavy, gang boss kind of thing, sort of sending his guys out to kidnap a girl and kill a dog and all this sort of stuff. I love the fact that she was called Denise as well. That made me laugh. But and you think he's the main bad guy sort of thing. And then Kelsey Grammer turns up and it's like, no, he's Darth Vader and that's the Emperor sort of thing. And he gives this brilliant speech. There's a monologue and sort of slaps him around and stuff. It was
it's a proper browbeating scene.
It was, and it left you in absolutely no doubt. Yeah, he's the man. He's the man, and this guy, he wants to be the man, but he's not. And
he's I like to think he's the same character from Money Plane.
He might as well be. Yeah. But I thought he was brilliant in it. I mean, the cast was great. Ryan Quanten playing this, was it a stuntman with Tourette's?
I wanted to ask you about that scene.
It was.
Do you think that scene worked?
It was a bit weird.
It was.
But it was a one scene and done sort of thing. Yeah, I'm glad they didn't go back to the well on that one. But it was just a bit strange. Yeah, but I thought he pulled it off. It's sort of this trying to sort of obviously not swear, trying to keep it under control. That was pretty cool. Terry Crews was a bit weird in this because we're watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine at the moment, and very different sort of character in that. But
he's very much a straight man in this, isn't he?
He's a straight man, but he's also a little bit of a sleaze, isn't he? When he gets in the camera, going, "Oh yeah, he's based the whole book on me," sort of thing. So fuck off. Because he's 99% sure he's going to get no pushback from the author on that because he's a recluse. But there you go. So this was a big surprise for us. You can find it. It's on Prime, but it's also on a YouTube channel, Rich, isn't it? Can you remember?
Cool. It's called the Midnight Screening. Midnight Screening channel. They've got. If you go on YouTube, there's tons of AVOD or ad video on demand service channels where you can watch legitimate uploads of, you know, various movies. I mean, stuff you'd also find on things like Pluto, for example, or Plex. And this one was on the midnight screen. They've got quite a big catalogue, new stuff coming up all the time. This one's spotted on there. I've been wanting to see it for quite a while because of the Sylvester Stallone factor. So it was quite interesting I was glad to finally have the chance to check it out, and I didn't have to be subscribed to Prime to do it.
Indeed. I must admit I had never heard of this film at all, and it's got two of my favorite actors in it. Well, three of my favorite actors in it, so Ryan Quanten, Stallone, Thomas Jane. It's bizarre that this one flew totally under the radar. We don't score the throwbacks, but we do recommend you check them out. We've just told you on the Midnight Screening channel on YouTube or on Prime. Take your pick. But yeah, it's certainly worth checking out, if only for the cast and what they're up to in this one. And that is the end of this week's episode. So thanks to Rich and Steve for joining me tonight.
No problem.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, a nice, interesting mix of films this week. Don't forget to check out our Facebook and Twitter pages at the DTV Digest, and also our sister show, The Short Shots, where me and Rich take an exclusive look at some short films. So thank you for listening, and tune in next time.
Thank you for listening to the DTV Digest. Let us know your thoughts in the comments and tune in again next time.